Now that you have an overview of what direct investing is, we've talked about some of the pros and cons, and we've also talked about really your homework to do before getting into direct investing by making your money rules. Now let's talk about the deals. We're going to talk about the due diligence process. Once you're looking at a potential investment, what's the process to go through to do your due diligence and make a determination if this is a good fit for you or not? So there are several steps in the due diligence process, and we're going to cover each of these steps with some detail. So the first step is really looking at the overall concept of the investment, and this might also include some market analysis. But really, what's the big picture? What's this investment all about? The second step is the team analysis, and that's looking more in depth at the team that's attached to the investment and making sure that there's a full rounded team to support the success of what you're investing in. Third step in the due diligence process is the financial analysis. This is looking at the numbers, and a lot of people are going to bring a team member along with them in this step, particularly if you're newer at understanding financial information. The next step in the due diligence process is really the review of the deal itself. What are the details of the investment itself? And we'll talk a bit about what aspects of that you need to be looking at. Next is the risk analysis. So looking at what's the level of risk in this investment as well as the types of risk that are involved. After risk analysis, you're going to run some scenarios. What's the best case scenario, worst case scenario, most likely scenario, and so forth, and how do those play out not only for the deal, but for you and your investment and your money portfolio. The next step in the due diligence process is getting some trusted advisors on your team to review it with you. Now, those may be different trusted advisors depending on the investment, but I am a big believer in using team. Then the final step in the due diligence process is checking in with your intuition, your gut. Because you can do all of the analytical steps, but if it's not in line with your intuition, something is still off for you, and I believe it's not a good fit. So I think it's really important that you use the left brain and the right brain, the brain and the heart together, and so it's really a critical final step in the due diligence process.
So let us dive into the due diligence process, and I will start with two first two steps in the process, the concept of the business as well as the team, sort of starting with the big picture and then funneling down to more details. So we talked a little bit earlier during the pitfalls section about how important it is to understand the concept of the business, and that's one of the keys. So one way to test it is to make sure that you can actually explain the concept of the business. What problem is the business solving in the way that anyone could understand? So if you understand it, there is a great chance that you could actually make much better decisions. What is the core value of the business? And looking back at your money rules, is it in line with your values? Is this a new or existing business? Do they have a track record that you could take a look at? What is the industry and market trends? Is this market and an industry flat? Is it growing? How much do you know about it? And do you have trusted advisors that could actually give you alternative ways of looking at it, not only getting the information from the potential deal? And let's talk about the team. That's very, very vital to the success of any investment. Does the team have direct or indirect experience in this deal? Is it something that they've done it before, or is it something that you're doing for the first time? Can you verify the track record that way? Are they coming from the corporate experience or entrepreneurial? Not that one is better or another. It's just, is it aligned with that particular deal, and is it providing some additional pluses versus shortcomings because they might not have a particular type of experience needed in this deal. So everything is individually wrapped around the deal. What is the team's track record, and can you verify it? We talked about that, especially when it comes to results from past deals. And what is the specialty? We talked about the fact that investment, as well as running a business, it's a team sport. And it requires different types of specialties and skills, from marketing to finances to management to sales. Is that team full and complete? What are some skills that might be needed that are not present on that team that you think that it might be actually bringing the deal into more risk because there's something missing? And who are the existing partners in a deal? That always makes you more comfortable if you could see who is partnering and do you understand their level of involvement in it. And finally, what is the team's risk? Can you assess it? Do you understand it? I have a perfect story around that, and that is there was an investment that I looked at where an owner of the business was an older gentleman, and it actually did not have a legacy and did not have anybody line up to take over the business from him. So that was a huge risk for me, and I decided not to invest because I knew that he was very, very good in what he was doing, but he also was the only person who really knew how to run this business well and didn't have anybody lined up in training. So for me, that was a little bit too risky to invest in that business and put really all of my investment in the future and the well-being and actually health of that one individual.